Welcome everyone to the 2020 Virtual Land Conference sponsored by Land.com Network. I greatly appreciate everyone, your willingness to attend this new format that was dealt to us, and I think we're all looking for a few aces that we can take out of the next couple days. So my name is Kyle Hansen, and I'm the 2020 National President of Realtors Land Institute. Thank you all again for joining us today. While we are sad that we cannot have our event previous land in San Antonio, we are grateful that you have been able to turn this event into a virtual conference, allowing even more people to join us and participate. This is our 14th annual conference, and it continues to be the leading event for land brokers to make deals and learn about the hottest trends in the industry. Of course, this event is not possible without our partners. Thank you to Land.com Network for being our major sponsor for this virtual event. And thank you to all of our partners that you see on your screen for the support, which is vital to our organization. For those of you at home that may be unfamiliar with Realtors Land Institute, let me tell you that RLI is the voice of land and the go-to organization for land real estate professionals and all things related to land.
Our first breakout speaker is Aaron Graham, one of the founders and president of National Land LLC, which is the parent company of National Land Realty and Landline Lending and Vermilion Settlement Services. Aaron entered the real estate business in 2004 after retiring from a successful NFL career where he played for the Arizona Cardinals, Oakland Raiders, and Tennessee Titans. Over the past 15 years, he has brokered over $300 million of land transactions throughout the Midwest, mostly in the farm, ranch, and recreational market sectors. Aaron earned the Accredited Land Consultant designation in 2013, and in 2016, RLI presented Aaron with the Rising Star Award, which is awarded to one individual each year for making significant contributions to the land profession and to RLI. Aaron lives in Ashland, Nebraska with his wife, Kim, and their 4 children, Cooper, Balin, Landry, and Nash. So now, without further ado, here is Aaron Graham.
Thanks, Aubrey. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you everybody for joining. And I'm excited to get a chance to talk with you. I know we're a little late getting cranking here, and I certainly am one typically not short on words. So I have a lot I want to be able to cover with you guys, and hope everybody is healthy and well. Certainly some challenging, trying times we're in, but hopefully we can take a little bit from the message today and apply it, come out of this thing roaring. So I'm going to jump right in. As Aubrey just said, you know, people have a tendency to remember me by my NFL career. I was fortunate to play for the Cardinals, Raiders, and Titans, as Aubrey had mentioned, and I jumped into the land business about 16 years ago when I was the first broker who joined forces with Cabela's Trophy Properties. You guys may remember that. Didn't have any experience in the business at all. Saw a tremendous amount of opportunity and still believe so today. And one of my passions has been finding areas within this industry to help my team really thrive and grow. So I've been asked to be able to share a little bit of view of my vision about what the future of our industry looks like. And I wish we all had a crystal ball to look through, especially in today's environment. But I know the best way for me to be able to kind of look at the future is to be able to stop and look back at our past. We do something very often in our company. It's an exercise called measuring backwards, which basically takes a look back at what you've been able to accomplish, which helps you be able to look forward. So we're going to do some of that today with looking at kind of in particular areas of where we really are coming from, what's going on in our current state, and kind of look to see if that can give us some predictions on where our industry may be headed. So what today's agenda I'm going to quickly cover. We're going to talk about technology's impact on our lives and businesses. We're going to talk a little bit about what we can learn from the changes that have taken place in the residential industry. Lots of stuff going on in that world. And then we're going to talk about how we can provide value to our clients as we continue to barrel through the decade of disruption. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is technology. And I'll admit this presentation is pretty heavy on the technology side, but who isn't paying attention to what's going on with technology, especially in our business today? I'll also mention that there's some stuff in here that's a little bit scary. And the intent here is to have an open, honest conversation with you guys about what we're seeing going on in our industry and the real estate industry in general, so that we can be prepared for potentially what is coming ahead. I'm gonna do something real quick here. I apologize for. Let's see if I can do this. So I want to ensure that you guys are going to be able to hear something. I tell you what, I'm gonna give it a whirl, and we're gonna see if this is gonna work. And if Aubrey or anybody on staff would be able to tell, I'd appreciate it as I move through the next few slides. But I want to pose the question to you: is have we truly grasped how much technology has changed our lives, how much it's changed our clients' lives, how much it's changed our children's lives? So those of us who are parents and grandparents, it's certainly have a dramatic impact. There was a video that came out, a presentation by Nature Valley, of all people, of all companies. And this is about a 3-minute presentation. Some of you may have seen it, but I think this video does a really good job on bringing light to our current situation and how much technology is impacting us and our families. When I play this, if you guys, someone from RLI would let me know to ensure that it is playing through on everyone's computer. Bear with me.
We can hear it, but it's very low. Remember, when you share, click share through computer audio.
Yes, and that's what I needed to do when I first did it. And I apologize. Let me just
That's all right.
do this for you guys. We will get on it quick. Great. Let's try it now.
There we go. Perfect.
Thank you.
When you were a kid, what did you do for fun?
So we'd go blueberry picking, for instance. That's so cute. But it was true.
We grew watermelons, plantains.
I found an old sign which was big enough for me to sit on and made a great toboggan. It was very slick and very fast.
I had a few fish in my basket, and I looked up on this bluff, and here's this black bear sitting there watching me. If he starts chasing me, I'm going to keep throwing the fish out of my basket until he's gorged and he won't bother me.
And what did you like to do for fun? You know, you go door to door, get a group of kids, and you play lots of games, hide and seek, just going out to the field and playing baseball.
And we build these massive forts, you know, the kind that you can actually sit in and play in, you know, with our friends. And it was just really wonderful.
So what do you like to do for fun?
Video games, definitely.
I like to go on my phone,
text, some email.
My favorite thing to do in the world is definitely watching videos and playing video games. Those take up so much of my time.
3 hours or 3 to 4 hours a day. Same.
5 hours straight.
Just last week, I watched 23 episodes of a TV series in less than 4 days.
I forget. I'm in a house, I have parents, I have a sister, I have a dog, I just think I'm in the video game, I completely get lost. I would die if I don't have my tablet.
Whenever I feel upset, I'd play video games and I'd feel normal. It's really wonderful.
When your daughters grow up, your great-great-grandkids, what do you think will happen if this trend continues?
It's scary to think that they'll never have to leave the house.
Cindy grew up doing a lot of the things that I did and enjoyed. And I see what my grandsons are doing today, and it's mind-boggling.
By the time they have kids, it's going to be a really different environment.
I actually feel a little sad because I feel like he's missing out on what's out there in the beautiful world.
special connection with nature. I think it's innate in all children, but needs to be nurtured.
So as you guys, if that's the first time you've seen that, that's certainly pretty impactful, and it will be included in the presentation for you guys to be able to share with people you feel appropriate. I'm going to share with you a few impact facts here as we go through the presentation. My first impact fact, number one, kind of scary. It's been predicted that 40% of both blue and white collar jobs will be lost to technology over the next 15 years. What? Kind of scary, right? I know. It's things we got to pay attention to. In that same timetable, our children in the 15 years moving forward, it's been said that 60% of the current jobs that are available in our job force today are no longer going to be there. It doesn't mean there's no jobs. It means that 60% of the jobs will be different than what they are today. Innovation and technology over the last decade has changed our lives forever. How we receive our news and information, how we communicate with messaging apps, social media, video conferencing. How would you like to have owned Zoom stock a couple months ago? How we're entertained, how we watch TV, sports, and movies, how we shop, how we bank, invest, transfer our money. And these last two, education and healthcare, I put into this slide many months back, and seeing today just how much our education and healthcare systems are being impacted by technology as we go through this corona epidemic. More changes ahead, not necessarily all technology related, but one that I wanted to point some light on, where we're going to see some tremendous changing all across our lives, is in the avenue of transportation. Ride sharing obviously came very quickly over the past 8-9 years through Uber and Lyft. It's very interesting paying attention to the self-driving cars and trucks marketplace. I'm not sure we truly grasp how big this marketplace is expected to be, over $1 trillion of impact over the next 15 to 20 years on our society. In the states of New York, for example, where the driverless cars are still in testing, we've all heard about some of the wrecks and crashes, but let there be no mistake that this technology is going to impact us in ways that we're not even seeing. Driverless trucks, they're on the roads in Florida and Texas. It's going to be technology that's going to be hitting our highways and interstates quicker than I think we've even visualized. Starsky Robotics is kind of the leading company in this area. I found it interesting that right now these vehicles are not totally autonomous. They're requiring a driver who's sitting in an office environment who is taking the first and last legs of the transportation, driving and navigating the vehicle through traffic, so on and so forth, then getting it on an interstate of which the vehicle becomes fully autonomous. Just very interesting. But as crazy as that is, this has kind of blown me away. If you guys are ready to enter into the George Jetson world, I remember watching that cartoon when I was a kid going, I wonder if in our lives that's actually going to take place. Well, if you haven't been following, Uber has now developed Uber Air and Uber Elevate. I'm going to show you one other video here. This is just 1 minute 40 seconds. If you've not seen this, it's well worth, excuse me, back up there. Let's see. There it is. Well worth a quick watch. No different as you ordering an Uber car. The option of being able to order an Uber Airlift is on its way. Utilizing the tops of skyscrapers for their launch pads. EVTOLs, EVTOLS, electric vehicle takeoff, electric vertical takeoff and lift vehicles in full production. autonomous vehicle and getting delivered back to her home. Crazy, right? For those of you who don't know, Uber Copter is already underway in New York. You can catch flights from Midtown Manhattan to JFK for around $200 to $275, depending on the time of day. This is going to be crazy impact to our world. Other things that I've noticed is just some of the American traditions that are changing. And one in particular that I'm very fond of has been our hunting world. Our company does a tremendous amount of recreational property sales, and I know many of you do too. But this is something we've got to put out there and we've got to talk about. I've had the great fortune of hunting all over the world, from chasing brown bears in Russia to chasing huge Yukon moose in Alaska. These are traditions I've instilled in my family. But I started to notice something here over the last couple of years, following the statistics from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, that people are unfortunately starting to move away from this tradition in some capacity. As we take a look at hunting license sales in Western New York State over the last decade, the 2008-2009 season versus the 2017 to 2018 season, every single age saw a reduction in the amount of hunting licenses that were sold. And most impactful, in my particular age group, 45 to 54, there was a 28% drop off. The state of New York itself, which they typically sell over half a million hunting licenses per year, reached its peak in 2004 with 696 and dropped to 564,000 in 2019, which was a 19% overall reduction. Something we want to pay. I'm going to talk something positive in this world at the end. Hopefully we can get to it. Let's quickly cover some of the key advancements that are impacting us in the land industry. GIS mapping software, two-dimensional aerial photos. They're not going to cut it much longer. There's been some great strides in this area. The accessibility and affordability of data. We certainly have learned a lot through this current crisis on how much people are relying on data and how much they want to have access to it. Visualization technologies. We've seen some major shifts in what's happening in camera innovations. Certainly what we've learned through aerial imagery, interactive property tours has become very popular. And also augmented reality. I'm going to take just a second and expand on the visualization technology, because this is certainly stuff that I know you guys are paying attention to. As we take a look at the compact camera versus smartphone sales, I thought this was pretty interesting. You guys remember these things? Up through the start, when smartphones were introduced in 2007, there was approximately 1.5 billion compact cameras that were created. Today, and that as of this was for 2018, 98.4% of all cameras are now contained within our smartphone. Amazing technology. What does the camera of the future look like? I have the 2019 iPhone 11. Some of you guys may have it with 3 cameras, 12 megapixel ultra wide, 120-degree field of view. It's almost mimicking what our eyes can see from a field of view. So what's next? Canon has a prototype camera that they've been working on here recently that can take a 250 megapixel photo. Why is that important to us? Because the human eye only has the equivalent of 576 megapixels. So the way I interpret that is we're approaching half of the ability of our eye to be able to see what it can see. It's pretty crazy how quickly that we're starting to move to a place where visualization is going to become more and more real. Aerial imagery. This picture was taken almost 10 years ago. I was one of the first who hopped on the opportunity to say, man, we've got to get something in the sky and take advantage of these cameras, high definition video and photography. And this was right before the FAA had put out restrictions on all UAVs being flown for any commercial purposes at all. And certainly we know we were shut down from doing that. And unfortunately, that helicopter actually got crashed not too long, or not much before that law was put into action. But this camera here changed my outlook. It came out in 2016, where I really saw opportunities. The Ricoh Theta is a 360-degree camera with a lens on one side and a lens on the other. And I couldn't find a telescopic pole quick enough to figure out how we could get this thing into the sky, because I knew the advantages of what that would do. And it wasn't much long after when the FAA had allowed drones to be able to be permitted for commercial use, and along with that came the cameras and the technology that's followed. What it's enabled us to do is to be able to take photos from the skies, we're all aware. But if I can show you, are you guys still seeing my screen? I'm hoping we are. I just want
Yes, we can see your screen.
I just want to quickly maneuver over to show you guys what this has actually done for us, and what obviously a 360-degree photo has been able to do is to make the thing come to life. And instead of just seeing something with blinders on, we've been able to take an image, and as I said when I first saw this, the picture not only has 1,000 words, this has 1,000,000. When we didn't know what was behind us was actually a duck hunting blind with an aeration system with a decoy, so on and so forth. It's very, very fascinating how much this technology is truly changing our business. Augmented reality, for those of you that aren't paying attention to this is the next new thing that I think is really going to be hitting us. Augmented reality is when you overlay digital information on an image that you're viewing through a device such as a smartphone or a tablet. In this particular case, we're looking at an image that's overlaid. So you're looking at a farm field where there's no corn, and you could actually move your iPad and look around, and you could see what the field would look like with corn growing in it. This is where it gets really interesting. Imagine viewing a property, a client viewing a property, viewing one of your listings through their device, where now you're able to take data and apply it to an image. So instead of just seeing an image of a field, I now can see the boundaries. I can see easement areas. I can see distances by simply holding up your phone and be able to look through your phone as a lens into what you're looking at in front of you. Pretty crazy. Technology impacting our land clients. I've tried to put these together in short snippets, but I thought this one is really fascinating. This is the, let me just mute that. I don't know if you guys are still hearing the sound. I don't want it to, but this is the DJI Argus T16 fertilizing sprayer. Not only is it a concept, it's beyond that, it's available for sale. These things are truly amazing what they're capable of being able to do. They spray a 20-foot wide path, completely controlled by, not required a pilot to maneuver all of their control. The actual software that is compatible with this is actually doing all the flying for this. Let me just show you one other quick video. Notice how the sprayer is going on and off for this herbicide treatment for these trees. It's just fascinating technology. We're going to see more and more of that. I've actually seen a photo of a farmer who has replaced his sprayer in his outbuilding with a shelf full of those drones to be able to handle his spraying for his crop fields. Livestock apps that are interesting. You guys may have heard of the adult dating website, whatever it's called, Tinder, but I'm sure you probably haven't heard of the one called Tudder, which was interesting. It came out of UK a couple years back, where Tudder's allowing farmers to match up livestock they believe would be good fit for their cows. So it's really the Tinder for cows. So it sounds kind of corny, you know, is this thing working? Last time I looked, they had over $60 million of cattle available through this application. Craziness. Same type of thing, that you swipe right or swipe left, however you do this, and matching up cows genetically. Pivot Bio, I wanted to share this real quickly with you, is they've entered into this game of what's called CRISPR gene editing, and I've noted it down here at the bottom, CRISPR acronym, where these gene edited microbes are working in farmers' fields by fixing atmospheric nitrogen, making it available to corn plants. Really, really fascinating stuff. It looks like the technology is moving away from maybe genetically modifying the plants as such and using microbes to be able to work benefits for the farmers. So let's move on and talk a little bit about what's going on in the residential industry. Impact fact number 2, there are now more real estate agents than doctors in the United States, 2 million plus. And Russ Cafano, former president of EXP World Holdings, had said real estate agents in his prediction in the US are currently at or around their peak, and I would agree. There's been 3 key reasons why investors recognize the residential real estate industry as being ripe for disruption. And they were the complexity of the process. Is certainly performing a real estate transaction for us is pretty easy for a lot of us. It's still not for the general public. Lack of transparency, people wanting, again, having the data available to them. Also fees, what people are charging. And maybe more importantly, time. And time, of course, is money. And right now, the average residential home is still taking 70 days from the time it's listed until it's been sold. So this is blood in the water to real estate investors seeing inefficiencies, and that is why they've poured so much money into these residential companies to better them. So where is the disruption happening in the residential side? Massive investment into technology. Compass this past year reportedly had added over 200 programmers and developers to their technology teams. I wish we could afford 200 developers. We're seeing what is being now termed as commission compression. And what is commission compression? Well, obviously it is commission rates that we're able to charge, and residential agents are able to charge rather are on the decline. There's two reasons why. Large companies are actively trying to use their scale and technology to make transactions cheaper, such as Redfin's 1.5 listing fee. If you're curious on how they're doing, because we get a lot of news out there from various sources, they finished last year in Q4 with $233 million in revenue in that quarter. They're making some deals. Reason number 2 why we're seeing commission compression in the real estate side and the residential side, smaller brokerages are actively discounting their fees in order to compete with these companies. Either way, in both instances, it's going to require higher transaction volume to be able to sustain that. If you're making less money per transaction, the brokerages are making less money, you're going to have to be able to do more volume. So where else is the disruption happening? There's focus on the end-to-end platforms, a very heavy focus. What does that mean? I think Berkshire Hathaway was one of the first to bring the concept. There's certainly been others who've been out there doing it, but it is when a customer comes to you, that you don't want them to leave through any part of the process from start to finish, which means they're going to get their lending through the brokerage. They're going to be able to get their title work done through the brokerage, their attorney work, if they need inspections. Matter of fact, there's a company out there I follow closely called Homie, H-O-M-I-E, and Homie started a moving company in conjunction with their real estate brokerage platform. So it's another thing that's really we're starting to see change dramatically. We're also seeing a lot of brokerage consolidation and mergers. It's one of people's answers is, are there 1 + 1 = 3 opportunities? Instead of trying to fight this battle on your own, there's been a lot of consolidation happen out there amongst brokerages that, and the reasons why is because they've got better efficiencies in being together, stronger buying power, cheaper financing, technology bundling, being able to take technology from one company, 1, 2, or 3, and merge them together. A good example outside of the real estate industry has been Cabela's, where I mentioned that I started with. and certainly you guys probably know the story, but two large companies really making their money in the same world, in the outdoor product world. One was the largest catalog producer on the planet, and the other one was selling a lot of fishing rods and poles, and maybe at a little cheaper quality. And ultimately, at the end of the day, for reasons of their own, they formed Bass Pro Shops, Cabela's, which sounds weird even saying still today, but it's a good example of a company that's gone through some consolidating. I thought Martine Keller Williams, Chief Innovation Officer, said something that he put it pretty well. He said, the truth is you have to look outside the real estate industry to build expertise that's never been in the real estate industry before. There's no doubt the real estate industry is expanding right now. New ideas are being tested, new concepts are being invented. Anytime an industry expands like that, it creates opportunities for everyone. The organizations that are going to be able to take advantage of that are the ones that have a new thinking. Impact number 3. There's an 86% chance that robots will replace the job of real estate agents in the next 20 years. So before you kind of freak out over that, I'm the eternal optimist that goes, there's 14% that ain't going anywhere. But more importantly, what we're going to see, in my opinion, is a weeding out of people who are not bringing value to clients. So the question becomes, as land professionals, what's the #1 objective we should be focusing on? And that answer is the value we're going to bring to our clients that technology will not. So I think there are 2 areas where our value is truly going to shine. And that is our expertise, which obviously the root word of that is to be an expert. And to be an expert means you're going to have knowledge. And I think people are going to continue to look for people who have the expertise in our industry. Along with that, and coupled with it, they really aren't mutually exclusive, is experience. I certainly think there's a lot of people in a lot of ways with technology and Google and the internet has allowed us is to try to become experts in an area, but the thing that they can't replace is our experience. The actual boots on the ground, dealing with the situations, negotiations, so on and so forth. That is where we're really going to be able to shine. So how are we going to stay at the top of your game? We're going to have to keep pace with the evolution of technology, right? There's a lot going on there. It doesn't mean you need to keep being an expert at it, but we need to understand it. Our clients are going to be paying attention to it, and we need to grasp it. We need to be an information consolidator for your clients. And what I mean by an information consolidator, it is be the source, be the place that people are going to want to go to find out the most important things about what's going on in your particular sector of the land business. I find it interesting in my company right now, we've spent the past week, and many of you have probably been doing this, trying to understand information about the CARES Act. And lo and behold, one of the places, the resource I went back to was NAR. And NAR was able to help give us some guidance in regards to what is going on with independent contractors and how they apply they became the information consolidator. We all need to be thinking in that same frame as we move forward. Finding opportunity in every challenge. It's a core value within my company. This is the current situation we're finding ourselves in with Corona is a great example. Our immediate thoughts were, when we saw the disruption that was coming forth, was let's find out where the opportunities are going to lie for us. I also think if you're going to stay at the top of our game, we're going to have to be coachable and flexible. I think you're hearing the word flexible more than ever in the world. When I hear the word coach, it makes me think of one of my coaches. This is Carl Mock. He was my offensive line coach for the Arizona Cardinals. I'm sure his beautiful smile is working you over right now. But he was a fantastic coach, played 13 years, coached offensive line for over 25 years in the NFL. He taught me something very early on in my career that I've never forgotten, and I teach it to my team consistently. And I bring it up, and he told me, the great ones adjust. And what he meant by that is all the great players who he ever coached, you have to be flexible as a professional athlete, especially a football player. Game plans change all the time. And his point was that the great one, he didn't even have to, there was no emotion involved. It wasn't a whining process and whatever else. It was, they just made the changes they had to do and went out there and performed at a top level. So it's important to us that I think we continue to look at being flexible in the current environment we're in. And I just want to share this one with you as well. This is Jim Thorpe. Some of you may know his story. I actually didn't know the story till about a year ago. This is a picture of Jim at the 1912 Olympics in Stockholm, I believe. Jim was a Native American from Oklahoma. And the morning before he was to compete in the 1912 Olympics, he woke up and his shoes were stolen from his locker. So what did Joe do? He goes to the trash can, or excuse me, Jim. He goes to the trash can and he finds one that somebody had thrown away that was the same size, and on the other one, it was too big. So what did he do? He throws on a couple pairs of socks and he goes on to win 2 gold medals that day. That's being flexible. That's adjusting to what comes in front of us, and we really got to be able to have and maintain that mindset. Protect your brand and reputation. This is a big point. We're all seeing it from everywhere, and it's not going to do anything but expand, but we're under the microscope. There's an old saying in football that says the eye in the sky don't lie, and every single move that you made and professional athletes make during practice, it's constantly being observed in what we're doing. And this technology-driven world is giving people a say into what they perceive and how they perceive our level of service. We've got to be cognizant of it and paying attention to it. We need to know our value proposition. Your value proposition is what you do that is unique as compared to your competition, right? Like I'd mentioned, we're going to have to understand technology. We're going to have to know these things. Your sellers are going to expect that your properties are being marketed on certain sites, but really honing in on the value that you particularly are bringing that is unique. And once you have it and you know it, market the heck out of it. That is what people are going to be paying attention to. And we stand back and we look at a real estate transaction and what's going on today. There's, I thought of this when I saw this, that I like doing puzzles with my 7-year-old son. He loves doing them. We started with a little 8-piece, preschool type puzzle, and we've evolved to these 500-piece and 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzles. And when it's said and done, when we think about all these different pieces of the puzzle that are entering into our profession, is the puzzle is not going to be complete without you and the value that you're going to bring to the transaction. It's so important to really realize there's nobody, and I'll repeat, nobody out there who has figured it out, or I expect to figure out how they're going to be able to transact real estate at the levels that we know and the complexities that can be involved, and do it without a professional. So in summary, we can't slow down the pace of technology. Embrace it. Let's just roll with the flow and learn from it and take the advantages from it. We need to keep an eye on the residential industry for changes and innovations that will eventually impact the land industry. Whatever's happening on that side, inevitably, we're going to start seeing impacting us. And finally, pour your energy and focus into providing value for your clients that technology will not. I think that's the secret sauce for us. And I'll close by saying this quote that I found on Inman News here not long ago. It says, at the end of the day, the consumer decides who wins. So only those companies that can reach and provide the best consumer experience will win. Think about that. Okay, so that's it for me, and I appreciate you guys listening in, and I think, Aubrey, we've got some time here for some questions, so.
We do. We definitely have some time for some questions. So if you have a question, you can type it into the chat box, and we can go from there. I see a lot of people congratulating you on doing a fantastic job, Aaron. And I also saw in some of the comments, people commenting on different parts of your presentation. I think a couple of people checked out Tutter. And it seems like it's pretty unbelievable. It's something that I think you exposed a lot of people to that for the first time. And then somebody made a comment as well that when you talked about hunting licenses, that the virus, COVID-19, might actually change some of that now that people can see how important it is to, to be able to hunt and provide their own food and not rely on the supermarket.
Yeah.
So
let me make a comment there, because I wanted to tie that together, because like I said, the intent is not to everybody panic about the hunting world going bye-bye in the next couple of years. That's not what we expect. I can't see the comments here, but what is absolutely spot on is exactly what I was mentioning about finding opportunity in every challenge, right? We are heavy on the recreational side, as I mentioned. Look at how many people now are going to have interest into having a place that is outside of the urban areas. I think we're going to see a huge influx of new buyers who did not buy because of the recreational. When we talk about recreation, we've always had a tendency to think towards the hunting, which is a big component of it. But we've always been clear and kept our eyes open on. We've got people who love to bird watch as much as they may want to hunt. They may want to ride four-wheelers. They may want to use a piece of property for a ton of different reasons other than hunting. So I think the hunting, although we may see a decline in those numbers, I think we're going to see a mass expansion of people who are moving into more of these rural properties for the reasons we're seeing surrounded by COVID-19 today.
good point. Very good point. And to your comment about the consolidation in the real estate industry, somebody asked, how extensive do you think the consolidation will be between businesses and offices? Do you think the 1- and 2-man real estate offices will be going away?
I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I think it's going to be very hard to survive that over the next decade. I'm not one who is saying, look, these things have to happen in any type of sequence. I think, what we're seeing is the cost of keeping up, whether if it's paying, as we've all been exposed, most of us who are putting our properties on various websites, how much that cost has impacted us. And the more business you do, the more it's going to impact our wallets. And there's advantages, like I'd mentioned, with buying power, with being together, where it's just not costing you as much if you can do it with numbers. So, it's how my partner and I ended up coming together. Is we had a conversation actually at the RLI conference 5 years ago, and we saw an opportunity where we said, I've got the technology, I've got systems. We both were building companies side by side. He had the data and he had a different vision, and we collectively said this was 1 + 1 = 3 for us. And so we were able to take our two companies and to pull them together, and it's been tremendously successful. So, long answer is, I think it's going to be tough for the smaller mom and pops to survive moving forward. I think we're all competing for page one Google. We're trying to do the things that are extremely expensive. And I would add this, I would not look at that as a negative, right? And what I mean by that is, I think people are truly seeing these opportunities by joining forces or consolidating, that the business opportunity for their contractors, for their agents, the people who are involved, is actually better in the long term. So I think it's something we're going to be hearing more about in our industry.
Very good point. Very good point. And to your point as well, that the focus should be on what value agents are providing to their clients that technology cannot. Somebody made the comment that in the absence of value, money is all that will matter to the clientele, that all agents must increase and know their value proposition and their knowledge base.
Yes. And I think, as I mentioned, I think truly putting our efforts into what we are bringing from our own unique value perspective is something that we've got to hammer on out there to our audience. We all do things a little bit different. We all do things the same in a lot of ways, right? As we've mentioned and talked about. But I think the people who are going to separate themselves are the people who are coming to them saying, you know, this is what I'm going to do different than what the competition is going to be able to do. I was listening to one gentleman talk about potentially the need to simplify our value propositions. And what he meant by that is, you know, at the end of the day, when we're meeting with a client, as the person who was asking the question was making the comment about how much it's actually, all they're really caring about is how much it's going to cost them, and you know, and are you going to get the job done? And so this gentleman was talking about, what does your client really want to hear you tell them? They want to hear you say, what are you going to do different than what the other brokers did or have done? And that answer should be, I'm going to sell your land, because that's really all they want to know and hear. And as they work through this, we're seeing more people. Obviously, the more information they have, the more they're comparing our fees and such. And that has created the complication, as I noted, in the residential side. If we think that we can just you know, barrel forth with 6-7% commissions in the residential industry and just be oblivious to the fact of how much market share Redfin's and Compass and other have taken, you're not doing yourself or your client a service. I'm not by any shape or form saying that commission compression is hitting the land industry anywhere near what it is on the residential side. But let's be honest, as I mentioned at the beginning, if we see commissions in the residential side, I don't know, get slashed a third, a half, whatever, you know, we're going to have to battle that same conversation with our clients, no different than what the residential brokers are having to compete with today.
There's no doubt. What happens there will definitely have an effect on the land industry in the future, for sure. Somebody asked, how do you see the Redfin type firm making it through the downturn? So many of them, since some of them have almost shut down for now. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's interesting, if you don't know, you know, Redfin is they're an employee-based platform, right? And I know, you know, that's been kicked around in our industry, maybe not a ton, but certainly there's been conversation about it. Is it time that we start looking at our brokerages, you know, being based more off of a W-2 platform instead of a 1099 platform? But I did read that Redfin was planning on cutting some of their agents. You know, I don't know all the details of exactly their base salaries and how that's all handled, but you know, we may be looking at it as the independent contractor status, which is certainly extremely important to us and our organization, about how that may be better for us at this particular time than being on some sort of an employee plan. And I'm going to be interested to hear as we go through, you know, these webinars, Aubrey, more we learn about how the independent contractor is getting compensated through the CARES Act. And we spent a lot of time on that, and we still have questions, but it does look like there's going to be some relief in regard, and that's certainly going to be a topic I know people are going to be wanting to discuss during our time with our RLI conference.
Yes, and Russell Riggs, our NAR legislative liaison, he's going to be addressing specifically that in his session here at 12:15. He'll be giving us a lot more insight into exactly what was passed in the CARES Act and how it will affect independent contractors. So that's something that NAR has been advocating for greatly over these last few weeks, and has done a fantastic job of making sure that independent contractors are included. So we'll hear more about that in a moment.
Right.
Someone also made the comment that in this current environment that we're in right now, where everybody's, you know, working from home and you know, we're doing this virtual conference and all of that, we're really seeing how we can, I guess, be disconnected and stay connected.
Right.
And how that might lead to a surge in rural real estate again, now that people know that that ability is there. What do you think about that?
Well, I think spot on, and the light is being shined heavily on the visualization technology that we were talking about, that people being able to view these properties and getting a very good understanding of them without stepping foot on them. And I think it just goes to show you how much the importance of the continued evolvement of that particular technology, and how I think it's going to become commonplace where people are going to virtually expect it. That's sad to say, but at this particular time, you know, rural communities obviously not as impacted in most parts of the country. We still have agents out showing in the 35 states where we work. Certainly not in the ones if they're restricted. But it's really, like I said, showing some light on people wanting to be able to, maybe people don't want to see us as much or be around us as much as we actually even thought. I know it's sad to say, but you know, we're dealing with banks in the Southeast that are still requiring what we call wet signatures on documents. You have to physically be there and notarize, and you have half the country that's going, why are we doing this? I mean, I don't want to go to your bank. I don't want to go to the title company. Let's evolve and let's integrate into digital signatures. And I think we're going to see areas such as that quickly be adopted in areas that they've tried to stay away from. And it's like, you know, I have 4 kids, the oldest 20 and the next oldest is 18. One of the things that any of you have teenage or late teenage kids can appreciate is, you know, they don't communicate the way that we probably even would suspect. I hardly ever see my two boys physically talking on their phone. You know, think about that. I mean, they have their phone with them constantly. They don't, if something comes up, they are able to text and communicate with masses of people in a matter of seconds, where we're still thinking, I got to call Fred, let me go find his number and we're going to talk or whatever else. And the younger generation, they don't want to talk to us. They think that's a complete waste of time. In a lot of ways, if we're not willing to adapt that, we're going to get left behind. You know, I also, you know, heard it said that our level of professionalism is going to continue to have to increase because the next generation of buyers of land are going to expect more. They're going to expect, you know, they're going to ask questions that our grandparents and their grandparents and parents never even thought of asking, and be able to do it at speeds and times that we're not even capable of visualizing what that looks like. So I think just as crazy it is going, wow, you know, we've cut the length of a transaction, the time on market to closing significantly over the past decade. But the expectations is we're in an on-demand, we're living in an on-demand society. And we are going to keep pushing real estate transactions, even on the land side. In a lot of ways, I think it could be even faster for us to do that, to a place where it becomes more liquid than we've ever thought of it being in the past. That's one of the big, you know, things people always want to reference. Well, you know, real estate, particularly land, is really an illiquid asset. It's going to take time to be able to do this. With the amount of technology and what's happening here, I think it's in a short period of time, we're going to start to be able to see transactions happen extremely quick. I didn't even want to go down the path of blockchain. And hopefully you guys are paying attention to that. That changes it to another level.
Yes. Yes, and we had a speaker at our conference last year who specifically talked about blockchain and how that was going to affect real estate. But I think you're exactly right. And the amazing world that we're in right now, people are having to adapt so that business can continue forward. And that will have big ramifications for us for the future.
Yep.
Without a doubt.
Adaption and flexibility. And I also included in there, you know, as my reference to my coach, Carl Mott, is I think we all, especially the people in our industry and the people who are listening to this, who really are the lifetime learners, is, you know, I've had to coach every aspect of my life, just about, especially from my long athletic career. And most people don't know unless if I talk to them about it. I have 3 business coaches today that I work with. And why do I do that? Because inevitably that's where I get some of the best information, have the best conversations. So for those of you who aren't utilizing personal coaches, I can't recommend it high enough. There's a ton of organizations, there's a ton of places to find them where they can specifically help you. You could seek a coach that's going to do nothing more but help you work on your value proposition.
That's a very good point, Aaron. That's something I think a lot of people don't think about or take for granted. They feel like I'm doing well, I'm doing great in my business. What do I need a coach for? But it's something, it is a wonderful tool that we all can use to just help us improve on our strengths so we can continue to move forward. So yeah. Very good. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for your insightful presentation. You have, I think, given us all a lot of really great information to think about. And we appreciate you being here with us today and sharing your thoughts on the future of the land business. So thank you.
Thank you, Aubrey. Everybody stay healthy out there.